Star Ocean Integrity and Faithfulness, or rather Star Ocean 5, is the 5th and possibly most unique entry in the Star Ocean franchise. Like the rest of the entries in this series, Star Ocean 5 is an action RPG released in 2016, which was developed by Tri-Ace and published by Square-Enix for the PS4. And the PS3 too, but that was Japan exclusive. The story follows our main characters as they discover a lost girl looking for her parents named Rilia. The plot unravels as secrets are uncovered and a war between two different factions rage on. This plot does seem rather simplistic, doesn't it? And to be completely honest, it is. This game follows almost every basic RPG story that exists out there, only with the addition of space and some few things sprinkled here and there. But this doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. We now live in a world where game companies who make RPGs always try to be really meaningful or deep with their plots, and always try to convey a well thought out story. And sometimes it doesn't always succeed. So to have a game which keeps its plot on a single course from beginning to end with maybe a twist here and there is actually a really nice change of pace to see. In short, a nice simplistic story is just what some people need nowadays, and I feel Star Ocean 5 kind of delivers that. The gameplay of Star Ocean 5 is a very interesting topic to say the least. First and foremost is the amount of people in battle at all times. This game has a total party count of 7, and all of them are available for battle at all times. Having this many people on the battlefield at the same time is something I rarely see explored in a JRPG. And needless to say, sometimes the battlefield can get a bit hectic at times, but never in a manner which can get annoying. Whichever character you decide to play as, you will have two separate types of attack, a light attack and a heavy attack, which is much like how Star Ocean 3 played out now that I think about it, and it kind of makes sense considering it's done by the same guy, so it really isn't a surprise. And with each type of attack, you can set arts to them, which are activated by holding down the corresponding attack button. You can set one to be activated when you are close to the enemy, and one from when you are far away from the enemy. So essentially 2 arts per attack style. Also, something I forgot to mention is that you can link up different attacks in chains, and the higher the chain, the more damage the next attack will deliver. It's kind of fun to play around with. That being said, it's also important that I mention to stay on the defensive. Some enemies will hit hard and fast, so it's always important to be on the alert when fighting a boss or hordes of enemies. The enemies will also be on the defensive, so you gotta pay attention to that as well. Overall, the gameplay is actually pretty good, giving the player to choose who they want to play as, and keeping the player on its toes in terms of being offensive or defensive. However, not all is good in this world, for I do have 2 major gripes to the game. Not enough to make me dislike the game, but they are gripes nonetheless. The first issue I had were boss fights. Now, the fights themselves aren't too bad. You know, they got their standard moves and, you know, their ultimate abilities, that kind of normal stuff you see in a JRPG. But there's one problem with them. When really looking at the bosses, they're essentially just giant HP sponges. The amount of HP that some of these bosses have are almost baffling. A typical fight in this game can last a minute, maybe 2 or 3, depending where you are and on your level. But some of the later bosses took me almost 10 minutes to beat, if not more. And it's not because they're too difficult or anything, they just took a long time to kill. Also, quick side note to any game developer out there, don't make a boss fight where I have to protect someone and all the boss does is go for that person. It's a bad time. My second gripe that I had with the game was, and I know this is gonna sound weird, but this was really short. At least for RPG standards. I mean, I beat this game in like 17 hours. All the other games in the series took me at least like 25 to 30 hours to beat. I know that people may not really see this as a bad thing, and I can kind of see where they're coming from, but for me, the game was just over before I knew it. And I feel like that if the game had been a bit longer, it could have had a lot more time to develop. Now, granted, there is endgame content with an extra dungeon and extra bosses, which I have been going back to in time of writing this little video, but I think the game would have been a bit better if it had just been a little bit longer. All this being said though, Star Ocean 5 was just a fun time overall, to be honest. It's nice to just have a simplistic RPG that doesn't try to be too serious in terms of plot, and just lets the player play through the game at its own pace. Its combat is simple to grasp, and allows the player to choose who they want to play and how they play. Oh, and something I haven't mentioned yet, the soundtrack is simply amazing. Matoi Sakuraba does it once again by bringing an amazing soundtrack that is just pure Star Ocean. If you just want to have a simplistic JRPG that's just fun, Star Ocean 5 might be the game you're looking for.